Good Thursday afternoon here. It's 4 o'clock in time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. We'll have plenty of Browns talk coming up. Quincy Carrier, Browns rookie running back, talking about playing with Shadeur Sanders last year.
How was it to see that Shadeur made the Pro Bowl for you?
That was good, bro. I was happy for him, bro. You know, to see what he endured all year and him to make it through that, the ups and downs, and see him be rewarded with that. I'm happy for him, bro. So that's good for him.
Yeah, a lot of people always got something to say about him.
Yeah.
But, he's a good player, though.
Yeah, bro.
He's got swagger. I feel like a lot of people don't like that.
I feel like that's a lot of players, though. Some people take it as you're being cocky, but it's not that, though. I feel like, especially like, to be that type of player, to where you produce on the field, you have to have that confidence. That's what you have to bring in, the belief, the self-belief, the determination. All of that is what makes you you. So I think a lot of people may not like that, but I think that's what makes him himself. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. You got to look at him. You got to look at who his pops is, too. Greatest cornerback all time, played in the MLB. And he was same type of dude, swag, talking, like all that. So it's like, I mean, that's just who he is. But I mean, I love it. Like when they was at Colorado, I thought they was turned. I thought they was lit out there. So I'm like, keep that going.
Plenty more talk about Shadeur Sanders and the Browns quarterback coming up, Quincy Carrier and Spencer German. Chris Sims, former NFL quarterback, on who he thinks could be a sleeper free agent at the wide receiver position.
The first guy, and you kind of said it, and who's not getting enough there, you just said it with the Chargers before, is freaking Rashid Shaheed. I mean, Rashid Shaheed, I think you know my thoughts about him. You know, he's a step below Alec Pierce. It's that kind of guy. So, yeah, I look at him and go, like, if you want to change your team, Chargers, and get explosive plays, if you're the Denver Broncos and you're looking for a guy that, I need somebody that Bo Nix can throw a 60-yard post to,
right,
and we don't have to go on a 12-play drive every time. I mean, that's to me where I fall in love with Rashid Shaheed. And then you couple that with his returning ability, that's where I love that one. I mean, he's special that way. He's a game changer in that capacity.
Definitely has the breakaway and big play potential. All right, Albert Breer, Monday morning quarterback, on if the Browns should consider trying to sign quarterback Kyler Murray.
I mean, I actually think he's got some juice, you know, and I think he's going to be motivated. We'll see where it goes, you know, but I think he's an interesting case because he's going to be able to make this purely a football decision, you know, and maybe that won't favor Cleveland, but, you know, because of the offset, they, you know, he has camp, they have a chance to really look at this analytically if everybody's offering the minimum, and I assume that's where it's going to be because the Cardinals are going to get stuck with the rest of the bill. You know, he's going to be able to kind of prioritize what the best football situation is for him, which to me makes this thing a whole lot more interesting.
Yeah, he's going to get to choose where he goes in all likelihood. All right, top 30 visits. That's what happens around draft time. The Browns have hosted Arizona wide receiver Jordan Tyson for a top 30 visit. He watched his brother Jalen, who plays for the Cavs, that win against the Pistons a couple days ago. Today, the Browns are hosting Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson on a 30 visit, according to sources. He is the consensus QB2 this year's draft board. Doesn't have a lot of starts relative to the college game as quarterback. Did perform pretty well at the Combine, though. And also, they are hosting Carnell Tate from Ohio State on a top 30 visit. Those are where the player comes into the facility. They get to meet with everybody. They get to show them around. Typically, the Browns have drafted guys they have brought in for top 30 visits. Again, you're allowed 30 of them. That's why it's called a top 30, strangely enough. This is kind of interesting as well. So former Browns offensive tackle Jedrick Wills sat out all last year to fully recover from that knee injury, starting his tour of NFL teams. Has been with the Patriots. Remember, Mike Vrabel kind of became a de facto offensive line coach 2 years ago when Wills was in and out of the lineup. He also met with the Lions. Visits are expected to continue into next week. Wills, just 26 years old, expects to be with an NFL team this season, according to his sources. All right, ESPN's national NBA analyst, Brian Windhorst. His takeaway from the Cavs after that win over the Pistons on Tuesday night.
To see Jalen Tyson have that type of performance in last night's game,
is really indicative of what this team has been for the last few years. You don't get to where they're going without the supercharge of Donovan Mitchell coming to the team. But, Jared Allen getting better, Evan Mobley getting better, Sam Merrill getting better. That's how you win a game like that where you're not at full power. That's how you potentially win a game like that that's high value in the playoffs. And I thought it was an excellent moment.
Cavs off again until Sunday when they'll play the Boston Celtics, trying to move out of that 4 spot and climb a little bit in the Eastern Conference. Let's talk a little bit about the Guardians. Australia and Chinese Taipei opened up the World Baseball Classic last night, Tokyo. Travis Bazzana, a Guardians prospect, in the 3rd inning, sharp base hit out into right field. Take a look at the play he made defensively at second base. Pretty good glove work, gets up, throws him out. And then in the 7th inning, with Australia leading 2-0, first pitch of the at-bat, and he is all over it, and he didn't miss it. A home run to the seats in right field for Bazzana, who singled, homered, drove in a run in the 3-0 win for Australia. Andre Knott, Guardians field reporter, talking about when we might see Bazzana with the Guardians in the majors.
I would say right around All-Star break would be my guess, give or take. If he keeps doing what he's done so far, and he's motivated.
But you think he'll play in Cleveland this year?
I do, with health, and he's going to be in AAA.
What would it have to take for him to win the job out of training camp?
Probably hit 500.
Okay.
What he did, here's what I'll say before he hit the home run last night, because I'm a nerd, and on my second TV I had it on. He has quality at bats. You'll watch an at bat and you'll get what I'm saying.
Okay.
He's not up there swinging at the first pitch. He gets deep in the count. But that home run was the first pitch he was ready for.
Yeah, they'd like to get him a couple hundred at bats at AAA, and then if he's doing what he needs to do, bring him up. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Browns are up first. Quincy Carrier, Untitled Unfiltered. Browns coverage on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on. Great games wait for you and me. The Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day. Put a little play in your day.
Browns are up first on Sports4CLE. Former Browns defensive coordinator and interim head coach of the Browns, Greg Williams, was asked about Myles Garrett's latest speeding ticket in Wayne County.
I have a lot of respect for Myles, and in my career, it's been over 2,000 NFL players that I've had the luxury, the opportunity to coach, and a lot of them see me in certain instances like their father, like their dad, or like a brother. It would depend upon the relationship you already have with him. But me personally, there would be some face-to-face conversations, and everybody knows I have a great respect for Myles and the family and everything when we brought him there. But he's got to, sometimes you got to check your ego at the door every single second of every day, and you got to make sure this is not only for your safety but for everybody else's safety out there too. And sometimes, right, wrong, or indifferent, there's off the field things that affects the time that you're going to get an opportunity to play.
Talking about Quincy Carrier, Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, I think it's his 9th ticket. It was cited in excess of 90. Reports are it was over 100. It's concerning.
Yeah, he's got to slow down when he's on the road. I don't know what else you can do. Like, you can tell him to slow down. Obviously, it hasn't really made a difference, right? I'm pretty sure they're having the face-to-face conversation they need to have. And they already signed him to an extension so they can't put it in the contract or something like that, like they did with basketball. Yeah, he needs to slow down. He's already been in one accident. You don't want to see him or, more importantly, somebody else who's not even speeding get injured because he wants to drive his car really fast. So yeah, it's unfortunate. You don't want to hear this stuff about your franchise player, and it's a growing epidemic. I think around all of not even just sports, just like in the country in general. You're just seeing people speed at ridiculous points right now. So something needs to be done. But I think right now the kind of effort that needs to be done is probably bigger than what Cleveland can do.
All right, let's turn our attention draft momentarily. Best case scenario for the Browns in the first round of the NFL draft, and I know you've talked about this on your show as well.
Yeah, I think if you're the Browns and you can double dip and leave this draft with one of your 3 highest rated offensive tackle prospects and one of your 3 highest rated wide receiver prospects. So let's say you leave this draft with a combination of Monroe Freeling and Mekhi Lemon. I think you're very happy about that, right? I think you've addressed 2 significant needs with your 2 first-round picks, and you feel very good going forward. So I think that would probably be the best case scenario, is to be able to get 2 guys in that range. And I wouldn't be surprised, Dave, if they take both of their picks in the teens or about 12 to 18 range in this draft.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. All right, longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi on if Deshaun Watson could benefit from the coaching change.
This coaching staff didn't suffer through the Deshaun Watson 19 games that we did, right? They remember one game, and that was the game he won in Baltimore in the second half, completing every pass he attempted. And they have an image of Deshaun when he was good with Houston. So I think Deshaun will benefit from this coaching change.
So are people expecting, it seems like the narrative nationally is that Deshaun Watson has a legitimate chance to be QB1. Locally, not quite as excited about that prospect.
He's so far away from even being considered for QB1 right now. Like, if we're just being honest about where he is physically, right? He has to first demonstrate that physically he's capable of playing football at a high level. We're talking about a guy who, before he even came to Cleveland, 2 ACL tears to his name, a bunch of bone breaks in his body, gets traded to Cleveland after a 700-day layoff, and then destroys his throwing shoulder twice in one season, one so bad that it took him out for the rest of the year, and then came back the next year, looked significantly reduced physically, and then tore his Achilles twice. And Dave, if he plays week 1 by some miracle, you know how many days would have been between starts for Deshaun Watson?
How many?
691. He hasn't recovered from the first 700-day layoff. He will have another 700-day layoff to come back from. I think we got to be honest about the hurdle he has to overcome to even become the backup quarterback, and that's just physically. We haven't even addressed how much he looks like he's fallen off mentally in his ability to play the quarterback position with confidence, and being out another 700 days is not going to do that for him, right? You could make the argument that being out for 700 days for a quarterback is the equivalent of tearing your Achilles twice. So, think about that, right? Think about what he's having to recover from. I'm sure that they have a hope for what they hope Deshaun Watson will look like, but more than likely, reality is going to set in very quickly with where Deshaun Watson's at, because you just got to be realistic about physically what his body's been through, what his mind has been through, and what the combination of all of that has produced on the field over the last couple of years. I don't think just because the coach changes, we're going to see a drastically different version of Deshaun Watson, especially when the last time we saw him before the double Achilles tear, he looked significantly reduced physically, and now you're adding 2 Achilles tears on top of a 700-day layoff. Just realistically speaking, that sounds like emergency third-string quarterback to me.
Yeah, when you put it like that. All right, so how does Shadeur Sanders become a starting quality quarterback, do you think?
I think he has to first, if you want him to stay on the field, obviously, if you want him to become a starting caliber quarterback. And his key to staying on the field is managing the games better and limiting those turnovers, because what they had some allowance for last year because of the point of the year he got in was for turnovers, right? He didn't get benched for some of the turnovers that he had last season because the season was basically over by the time that he got in there. But the reality is, if he plays week 1, week 2, week 3, those fourth quarter interceptions, when you have a lead, you do more than that more than one time, you're hitting the bench. You know what I mean? You can't have the amount of turnovers that he had, and I think you can't make the poor game management decisions that he did at the end of this year and expect to stay on the field. So if you're Shadeur, you got to improve in those two areas, making better decisions and just managing the game better, because when you take a 40-yard sack and you're in field goal range, that's going to be something that gets you benched early in the season. Ask Joe Flacco how quick the hook was on him to get the Dylan Gabriel compared to what it would be at the end of the year when you're out of playoff contention. So, if we're talking about Shadeur playing at the beginning of the season, where playoff contention is going to be on the line still, those turnovers will get him benched. Those bad decisions, the bad sacks will get him benched much faster or much quicker than you would think based on what happened last year. And if he wants to stay on the field, he wants to improve, he has to limit those two things because he won't get the opportunity if he doesn't.
All right, let's run through some of the quarterback suspects that are out there. Is Malik Willis worth what he's going to get for the Browns, do you think?
What's it at, $35 million now? It's like the Mega Millions, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Like it keeps going up every time I'm on here. No, I don't think you should pay Malik Willis $35 million after 2 games. I think, look, we allow for a level of ridiculousness when it comes to quarterback because we understand that teams are desperate, but I have to imagine that somebody's going to come to their sense here and be like, hey, $20 million a year. That's about as much as we could go here. Because if you get this guy $30 million off of 2 games, you're setting a precedent for having to pay much more for much less at quarterback going forward.
All right, Kyler Murray. That's going to be league minimum. Should the Browns be interested in him?
It would be malpractice if they weren't interested right at this point. Like, look at what they have on the roster. We just talked about how cooked Deshaun Watson is. We don't know if Shadeur Sanders is going to be a starting caliber quarterback. I've heard this coaching staff speak glowingly of every quarterback on the roster except for Dylan Gabriel, so that kind of tells you where they're at with that. If Kyler Murray, with his veteran minimum contract, says, hey, I want to play in Cleveland, you do that. Yes, you absolutely do that if you're Cleveland. That is the only bailout that could fall out of the sky for your quarterback situation because it's not going to lock you in long term. If it's not successful, then you could just move on from it after this year. And if it is successful, then you just had a successful season with the quarterback. Congratulations. You feel much better about yourself now.
All right, Anthony Richardson. Thoughts are that might take a 5th-round pick to get him.
Yeah, 5th-round pick, I'd do it. 5th-round pick, I'd do it. You know what I mean? It's legitimate competition for Shadeur Sanders at this point, right? We talked about this quarterback room. I don't factor in Deshaun Watson as a legitimate competitor for that room. I think we're far away from taking him seriously in that role. Dylan Gabriel does not seem like what they want at the quarterback position. So right now it's just Shadeur Sanders there, right? Like that's the only guy in the competition for real. Anthony Richardson would provide legitimate competition, right? So if Shadeur beats out Anthony Richardson, we could say, hey, we learned something about Shadeur in that competition. We feel much better about him. If Anthony Richardson beats out Shadeur, then we feel much better about the situation because we learned something about Anthony Richardson. Right now, if Shadeur beats out what's left of Deshaun Watson's body and Dylan Gabriel, who they seem to have no interest in playing, what do you really learn about Shadeur Sanders other than like he can breathe and throw the ball and pass a physical and play quarterback, right? So you need to have somebody else in there to provide legitimate competition. I think Anthony Richardson for a 5th-round pick, about the right price, and if it works out, then he's 23 years old, the same age as Shadeur Sanders, and you might have stumbled upon a long-term fix.
Is there any other veteran that makes sense out there? I'll throw everybody else out there that people are talking about.
Okay, Geno Smith, maybe. I don't know. I don't think that makes sense for them at this point in time. Like, at that point, You're gonna pay Geno Smith like $8 million to play quarterback for you. You know, it would be better. Like the worst case scenario wouldn't be as bad, but keep in mind, like Geno Smith's available because he was the quarterback of the team that got the #1 overall pick. So it doesn't really provide a meaningful floor right now at the quarterback position. You know, Marcus Mariota, we could throw him into the ring, right? Probably be $8 million for Marcus Mariota. You have to ask yourself, at that point, do you feel like he puts a high enough floor on this team to make that a worthwhile endeavor? I tend to think probably not, but if you're a coach and you want to win a certain amount of games, maybe you just feel more comfortable with the Marcus Mariota in the building, or again, you want to give Shadeur some legitimate competition to beat. So, you know, it's something along those lines is what I'm thinking of. Maybe it could be Justin Fields. He gets released. That's another name that'd be out there. But, you know, it's really just kind of, we see these names pop up every 2 years, Dave. You know, like they're available every 2 years. You know, it's the same mix of guys.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll turn our attention a little bit to the wide receiver position and some offensive line. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Colin Cowherd from The Herd with Colin Cowherd on who he thinks the Browns will take with their first pick in the first round.
Number 6, Cleveland Browns, Carnell Tate, played at Ohio State. Their receiving core's a mess. Shadeur Sanders and Shadeur Sanders capable of throwing the ball down the field, but Jerry Jeudy is inconsistent, drop issues, maturity issues. Carnell Tate kind of feels like a can't-miss guy to me. I mean, I don't think there's many can't-miss guys in the draft. I can't believe it, if not for Cleveland, somebody else. A lot of Buckeyes at the top. I think he walks in, Jerry Jeudy one side, Carnell Tate on the other. They had an atrocious, I mean, their leading receiver last year was a rookie tight end from Bowling Green, Carnell Tate to the Browns.
Quincy, I kind of like the idea. I'm not as concerned as some about the, I do kind of like the end of that. But again, I'm not concerned about the 4-5. He's not somebody that needs speed to get open. I like Tate.
Yeah, I do wonder if the Browns need somebody who can be more of a every down option at wide receiver. And what I mean by that is somebody that, like Carnell Tate, he's a home run hitter. That's what he did at Ohio State. Now, we don't know if he could do the every down stuff or do the, like, what you need to lean on from a number one wide receiver, the first down, move the chain stuff, just because he wasn't really asked to, because that's Jeremiah Smith's role at Ohio State. But that's the first thing, right, in your evaluation of Carnell Tate that you have to ask yourself is, what do you feel like he has that he wasn't able to show? If we're just going off the tape, that's where I have my concerns about Carnell, and that's where the 4-5 starts to pop up. I think he's still going to be able to be a home run hitter in the league. But, you know, the Browns need to be able to stay on the field consistently with the passing game, and they need somebody that they can just give a bunch of targets to, because, you know, as nasty as Colin Cowherd did my man Harold Fannin there, just called him a rookie out of Bowling Green. That was disrespectful. But there's a reason why Harold Fannin got so many targets last year, because he was the guy that you could rely on and say, hey, look, I could throw him the ball. He could do something with the ball. The Browns don't have anybody you could just get the ball to and just see if they can make a play with it. They've tried to do that with Jerry Jeudy. That's just not Jerry Judy's skill set. Isaiah Bond's never been that. So, you know, my worry is that Carnell Tate is also not demonstrated that he's been that. So I wonder if they want to go a different direction with like a Mekhi Lemon, who's done that in college, right? Jordan Tyson, who's done that in college. Maybe even a Casey Concepcion at the end of the first round, who's done that in college. Because I feel like that's more in line with what this room needs in order to take some pressure off the tight ends. But I like Carnell Tate as a prospect. And I do wonder. It was like there was like a corner that went, I think, to the Detroit Lions from Ohio State at the peak of like Ohio State being DBU, and it was like, oh, well, he just went that high because he went to Ohio State. And I wonder if like we're cashing in on the peak of this run that Ohio State has had, where it's just like great wide receiver after great wide receiver, and Carnell Tate's going to be the guy who benefits the most from it because I do think there are some limitations there in his skill set that might not fit the best with Cleveland and what they're looking for right now. But good player. I think there are a lot of places he can go. He could be successful.
All right, so staying on the Buckeye wide receiver bandwagon, Marvin Harrison. What about the rumors with Marvin Harrison getting traded to the Browns? You buying those? What are your thoughts?
That's an interesting one, right? Because, when you think about Marv and what Marv needs to succeed, I just don't think we got it in Cleveland. Now, it'd be interesting too, right? Because if we go in on Kyler Murray and that's our solution for the wide receiver, for the quarterback thing, and then we trade for Marvin Harrison Jr., it's like, what are we doing? This didn't work in Arizona. So what we just gonna change the colors and then redo it? So yeah, I do wonder what the plan is there long term. Marv, I see the attractiveness of it. Obviously, he was a top prospect when he came out of college. I think what we've learned about him through his time in the NFL is that he is somebody who, I think will thrive in structure, will thrive with a quarterback who can get him the ball accurately and use those back shoulder windows, and the Browns don't have a quarterback who could do that. I think, really, though, if I'm being honest, the best fit for Marv, and I'm just going to put this one out there, we'll see what happens. But if I'm the Raiders and I'm about to draft Fernando Mendoza, and I saw all the things that he did with Sage Surratt and Omar Cooper, with those back shoulder balls and the accuracy that he had in that playoff run, I can't imagine there's a price that you're not willing to pay for Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair him up with Fernando.
All right, so what veteran wide receivers do you think the Browns could look to add to the roster in that room?
I think Romeo Doubs makes some sense, right? If you look at how the Browns wide receiver room aligns, they really need to find a way to get Jerry Jeudy back into the slot, because last year he did not play in the slot very often. I think that really affected his production. So find a way to get him back into the slot. If you go and get a Romeo Doubs, and I think this is the argument for Carnell Tate as well, right? If you get one of those guys, they're going to play out wide a lot of snaps, which means that there's going to be a lot of snaps for Jerry Jeudy back in the slot. So maybe that's a direction that they go. You could go with somebody, for some veteran appeal, like a Deebo Samuel, right? A guy you can get the ball to. He could be productive. I thought he did a good job being productive last year with very shaky quarterback play in Washington. There's a lot of different options they could go for. It's just what they're looking for. The dream scenario would be like Mike Evans, right? I would love to go and get Mike Evans, but I don't think that's an option that's going to be available to them.
All right. What do you think? Who are some guys that you think are under the radar free agent options for the Browns?
Yeah, we're talking a lot about center, right? And the numbers going around for some of these centers in free agency, it's getting astronomical. We're talking about $22 million for Tyler Linderbaum. So I think the Browns aren't going to be in on $22 million for Tyler Linderbaum. They've already made their $22 million move. They got their tackle from Houston. So now I think they're going to start to shop at a different tier, right? Okay, we went to Macy's, and now we going down to Marshall's, or TJ Maxx, and we're going to go look for a center there, maybe a Cade Mays, right? Cade Mays makes some sense there. Off his rookie deal, 4-year guy, only played center for 1 year, transitioning from guard. Might make some sense there to go out there, Cade Mays or Elijah Vera Tucker, right? Not healthy, but when he plays good, you can get him on a discount, maybe 13, 14 million instead of the 25, 30 that you're gonna have to pay for a top end guy. But when he does play, he is a top end guy. So if he's healthy, you win out, big win there. But do you want to take that risk when you're possibly bringing back Tevin Jenkins? And we know DeJuan Jones's injury history as well. You got a lot of injury question marks on that line. Do you really want to invite another one? Another name to think of, I brought him up earlier, Romeo Doubs, right? A lot of names being thrown around at wide receiver, but if you look at the production per target for Romeo, it's very, very encouraging. Good efficiency, great success rate when thrown to. I think all those things kind of lean towards somebody who you might be able to get a good deal on in free agency.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about Todd Monkin and some guys that could be hidden gems on the Browns roster. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Get ready for action like never before. The 2026 Mid-American Conference Basketball Tournament presented by Credit Union One returns to Rocket Arena March 11th through the 14th. Every shot, every steal, every buzzer beater, it all comes down to this. The best of the MAC men's and women's teams battle for glory, pride, and a ticket to the big dance. Feel the intensity, hear the roar. MAC Tournament Basketball. Be there. Tickets on sale now at rocketarena.com.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Former Browns defensive coordinator and interim head coach Greg Williams on what he sees in head coach Todd Monkin.
I've had the luxury to working with Todd Monkin before at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Mike Rutenberg also, started out his coaching career with me on my staff, on the defensive side of the ball at the Washington Redskins, now the Commanders. So Todd is a really, really good football coach and comes from a coaching family. His dad, unbelievable coach, and his two brothers, at the college ranks, very, very good coaches. And, I watched Todd do a great job. He was a wide receiver coach at the Jacksonville Jaguars when I was a defensive coordinator. And I watched him do a really good job of coaching and bringing out the best in those guys. And he had some high maintenance wide receivers on that team at that time, and how he handled that whole thing.
So, Quincy, what are your thoughts about Monkin and how he fits here as Browns head coach?
It's interesting, right? A much more straightforward approach when it comes to some of the media stuff. I think where his fit is his willingness to teach and his willingness to be patient to teach that and flexible to teach. I think that's where his run here is going to be kind of judged. So, can he develop some of these players at positions we've struggled to develop? I thought that was the biggest difference between Jim Schwartz and Joe Woods, right? Like the ability to develop guys, the plan that was evident with developing these guys. I want to see that feel like a big difference there with Todd.
So when you look at the Browns roster, who do you think are some hidden gems that Monkin can get more out of?
Yeah, so I think Dylan Sampson is the first guy that comes to my mind. Is like he was underutilized by the last coaching staff. And I think, if you're Todd Monkin, looking at how he used Keaton Mitchell last year and how creative he got with Keaton Mitchell, I think that's something that you get excited about. You can easily see Dylan Sampson in that kind of a role. Also, if you look at the success that he's had with his tight ends, right, it's just easy to imagine Harold Fannin having a lot of success in that kind of an offense. I wonder, he was pretty good at working with Rashad Bateman in Baltimore, right? Rashad Bateman, former first-round pick. A lot of people had given up on him by the time that Monkin had got there. He had to sign like a pretty minimum long-term contract to stay in Baltimore. And Monkin worked with him and got the best seasons of his career out of him so far. So maybe somebody like a Cedric Tillman, finally gets a coach that prioritizes teaching to him, and that makes the difference for him in his play. I think those are the kind of guys who can benefit, the guys who are a little raw, but obviously had talent. Isaiah Bond, another one, right? Didn't get his eyes around often, definitely has some refinement needed to his game. That's what you want to see be improved.
All right, so Chris Sims and Connor Rogers talking about free agent linebacker Devin Bush and what they think his market will be.
A guy that you've seen some hype around, but a little buyer beware. This isn't the most popular player, but one I'd be scared of. Devin Bush.
Yeah.
And here's my reasoning. Devin Bush, I liked him a lot in the draft. It didn't really work out across 4 years for the Steelers after they traded up for him.
Yeah.
He had a brief stop in Seattle. He was in Cleveland in 2024. You didn't hear a ton about him. He exploded last year under Jim Schwartz in Cleveland's defense. Devin Bush was awesome last year. What does it look like if he's out of that environment? I'd be a little nervous to pay a big number.
Yeah.
And, it's not Jim Schwartz anymore. It's not the Cleveland
That's
front.
what's going to be scary. I know.
Like you had one good year, but that's one good year.
Can we expect
7.
it? Right.
I would just I think he's going to get a good deal, and good for Devin Bush. Like, it's not easy to be a former first-round pick that really didn't work out, and you find it year 7 in the league. But it would be buyer beware for me.
I understand that totally. It would be. This is, to me, sometimes a scenario where you think there's going to be a market, the player maybe outpriced himself, and he ends up signing that 1-year deal because he goes, wait, nobody wants to give me a 3-year deal or anything?
Because of the one big year.
And everyone's going to go, no, we got to see another year. We're not sure about that. I think that's where we get into that one.
Quincy, I think the Browns want him back. I really do.
Yeah, I think also what they're underestimating is the Devin Bush's draft pedigree, right? Like, there's a lot of guys who were GMs at the time who really wanted to draft Devin Bush, who just saw him put it together, that are going to be convinced that, like, that's the real deal. I do wonder, like, how much of this is, like, Jason Tarver in him being able to work magic. I mean, there's multiple guys we've seen them get really good years out of, and then, like, they're out the league a year after they leave Cleveland. And, you know, we'll see if Devin Bush fits that profile. But his improvement has been so vast that I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to be a good linebacker wherever he goes. He just kind of figured out what he needs to be successful. And as long as the team puts him in that position, I think he'll fill out that way. Now, it's not going to look as good as Cleveland. Like, the Browns have one of the best defensive lines in all of football for a linebacker to play with. And it's going to be a lot different, right? Playing with a different front. We've seen that with our linebackers in the past. But, yeah, I like Devin Bush. I do wonder how motivated they are to bring him back, given their success with developing these guys and where the money's going to be needed in the next couple of years. But I wouldn't blame them for wanting to bring him back. He was excellent last season.
Do you think the Browns' plan on defense is going to work with Mike Rutenberg?
I feel good about it. I feel much better about it than when all this stuff started a month ago, right? When they hired Todd and we weren't sure who the defensive coordinator is going to be. They were able to retain most of the staff. They brought in somebody who seems to be highly respected amongst his peers. And he seems to have a focus in his discipline in the secondary where you could argue the Browns need the greatest amount of improvement. So, you know, young mind, same philosophy, same style of defense, but maybe adding a bit more to it. Hopefully he doesn't mess up the recipe that they already have for a top 5 defense and adds to it and makes them even more dangerous.
Yeah, you know what, listening to him earlier in the week, there's some intensity there that I can see players kind of gravitating towards.
There's a youthfulness to him, right? It's a similar thing that Jim Schwartz brought. Remember when Jim Schwartz came here and it was like compared to Joe Woods, it's like you wouldn't believe that Jim Schwartz was like 60 years old compared to the last guy because Jim Schwartz was up and at it and barking at guys and all this stuff. He seems like he brings that same energy, and I think that's going to make a big deal. I think that's a good point out by you, man.
Quincy, as always, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Quincy Carrier, make sure you check him out. Great stuff as always. Untitled Unfiltered. He has his own show. Make sure you check him out. Really good stuff. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out other side of the break. Spencer German from 92.3 The Fan and the Lockdown Browns podcast. Stay with us on Sports4CLE.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me, the Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day, put a little play in your day.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family
and educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We're trying to connect with Spencer German from 92.3 The Fan, the Locked On Browns podcast. Mentioned a couple of times, there's some talk out there. The Browns might be trying to trade for Marvin Harrison Jr. Again, we'll see. The talk is that they'd have to give up likely a second-round pick, so it'd be 39 overall for Marvin Harrison Jr. Has not performed up to what was expected of him as a first-round pick for the Arizona Cardinals. So again, we'll see how that goes. The other thing that continues to be bandied about, and we won't really know relative to the quarterback position, Kyler Murray, and he won't be released until the beginning of the league year, which is Wednesday. So he can't really negotiate until he is released, which again won't be until the back half of next week. But Murray, Anthony Richardson, Malik Willis is probably not going to be a guy that the Browns are willing to pay $35 million. Again, 7 starts is kind of what you're basing that on. 7 starts with Green Bay that have been pretty good. The thing that's intriguing about Malik Willis came from Liberty and kind of got thrown right into it with the Titans. And Liberty, again, more of a mid-major type. So it probably wasn't ready for the opportunity. Went to Green Bay, LaFleur gets a hold of him, and all of a sudden, things are starting to come together. And it's a guy that's got a big arm. He's athletic. He can, if the processing gets there and he starts to see like it appears that he did, can he put it together and become that higher-end quarterback? Let's welcome in Spencer German from 92.3 The Fan, Locked On Browns podcast. So Spencer, Murray, Richardson, Malik Willis, or another veteran quarterback, any of them make sense to you?
Yeah, for a while I wondered about Malik Willis and if they would take a real run at him. But, after being out in Indy, I know you were there as well, Dave, it doesn't feel like that's really in the cards for them. And I can understand to a degree, like, why. It's a little bit of a longer-term commitment. I know it's only 2 years, theoretically, is kind of the contract that's getting thrown around. But if you're signing Malik Willis, I think it's because you believe he's like your quarterback of the future. He's going to start immediately. And I think the Browns are going to lean more into this kind of competition that they keep talking about this year. And so, I don't know, like as I think about the other 2 names on the list that you rattled off, like, I know a lot of people have strong opinions about Kyler Murray and don't necessarily think he's a great quarterback. I think he's always kind of fluctuated between being a top 10 quarterback. I mean, we can't deny that there was MVP caliber seasons in there, or at least that he was in the MVP conversation a couple times when he was healthy, where, I think he's fluctuated between being a top 10 quarterback and a top 20 quarterback. So is that better than what you have right now? Probably. So the thing with Kyler for me is, if you're getting him on the vet minimum, you might as well at least explore it, right? Like, it doesn't hurt to ask around and see what his interest is and try to bring him in because he has that, money from the Cardinals coming in. There's a lot of guys you could talk me into at any position, frankly, for the vet minimum. So I don't hate it, but I think ultimately Kyler kind of is in the position of power where he gets to pick where he wants to go to play on that type of contract. And so I don't know that the Browns are really attractive from his standpoint because, let's face it, they're not really ready to compete right now, and I'm assuming that's the situation he's going to want. And so as I kind of whittle this list down, Anthony Richardson is the one that probably makes the most sense in terms of bringing him in to compete in a room that is already being talked about as an open competition. It's a 1-year commitment. You could pick up the 5th-year option, but I don't think any team that acquires him or tries to acquire him is planning on doing that. I think it's basically a 1-year experiment where he's making like $10 million, and you just kind of see if he has anything left in the tank. I also think the traits that we talk about with Malik Willis, strong arm, very athletic, fit Anthony Richardson. And so maybe that's something that Todd Monkin wants to add to his quarterback room and see what it can do. And I don't know that drafting one is a great option either, because this class is so iffy and you already have 2 young quarterbacks here. Like, does it make sense to add another one of those guys into the room when you don't know really what they're going to bring to the table, or it's another project, if you will? There's not like that sure thing at this stage. I could see them still drafting one because I understand the philosophy of like, hey, you draft and develop. If you don't have a quarterback, you should always be drafting one. But I've kind of become settled on the idea that they're going to add a veteran, and of the group of guys you kind of listed off, I do feel like Anthony Richardson probably fits the billing where you can get him pretty cheap in a trade and then add him into this competition that they're planning on having.
Yeah, the interesting thing, and I can't remember who made the point on our show earlier this week, Murray could look at what Todd Monkin did with Lamar Jackson, mobile guy who he got to play really good out of the pocket, and he could think, man, this could set me up. Who knows nobody knows how Kyler Murray's thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we have to learn what his motivations are for sure. I believe the prevailing thought is sort of that the Vikings make a lot of sense for him. You talk about situations and coaches helping him out. What better place to go to where he's trying to sort of revive his career in a way after a series of injuries the last couple of years, then go play for Kevin O'Connell, who, I mean, look what he did with Sam Darnold, right? He got Sam Darnold paid, and then Sam Darnold goes to another situation this year and wins a Super Bowl because he had the right coaching around him. So I think that's probably a good thought process for Kyler. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate the thought though that maybe he views Todd Monkin and the offense that he ran in Baltimore and what he did with Lamar Jackson, who's another dual threat quarterback, maybe the best in the game right now, and maybe that's a good place for him to go to sort of maximize his abilities. I don't hate that idea either. I'm more open to Kyler than I think a lot of people are. But ultimately, yeah, I think those options are either of those probably make a little more sense for where this team's kind of thinking or looking. And taking a flyer on a guy and seeing if it sticks over, signing Malik Willis or even drafting a guy in the first, 3 picks that they have, I would say, is probably off the table for me.
So I know you talked about this on Locked On Browns. Who are some of the top free agents the Browns have that you think are worth re-signing?
Yeah, I made a list of these. A couple of them actually got taken care of this week already with because I know like Malachi Corley was on my list as a guy that I'd be really curious to see how he's utilized in Tom Monken's offense. Special teams guy as well as a returner, and somebody that Byron Storer talked about as somebody he's excited to work with. But he's pretty much guaranteed to be back now because as an exclusive rights free agent, he got the tender offer, and so he either signs it or sits out. So I would imagine he's going to be back. But yeah, the rest of this list is there's some notable names on. I think Devin Bush tops it. Really had his I think it was easily his best season since his rookie year in Pittsburgh before the ACL injury, and put up some really big numbers. Clearly thrives in this system, in this defense, and can just kind of play freely, play loosely. Him kind of emerging as this really solid player has helped alleviate some of the lack of depth at that position over the last couple of years. So I think bringing him back should be a high priority. I also think Shelby Harris is a guy on the defensive side of things, but also has a special teams impact that he gets his hand up and knocks down kicks constantly and is another nice rotational piece. I kind of view this as like not messing too much with the defense, right? Like the guys that have been here and have carved out nice productive roles for themselves, why not run it back with them? It works. Ronnie Hickman was another one I had on there. And then the offensive side, I do think there's a pathway towards re-signing Tevin Jenkins as you try to rebuild this offensive line. And there's obviously you made the trade earlier this week for Titus Howard to take care of one of the right tackle spot, but you got to get a left tackle. I think that's probably an area they're looking in the draft. We got to get an answer from Joel Bitonio. But if you're looking for even a guy that can maybe be a swing player for you and play different offensive line spots because he has done multiple different positions throughout his career, I think Jenkins makes a lot of sense because he was here. He provides some stability. He did some nice things last year in terms of, taking over for Wyatt Teller or going through that rotation with Wyatt Teller. So if you're looking for some stability and some guys who have been here before, I think Tevin might make some sense to just kind of like fill a void for now. And even if you draft a guy later, that's okay. So I can see him being somebody that maybe gets prioritized as well.
All right, before I let you go, who do you think should be on Andrew Berry's radar at 6th overall?
Yeah, so my latest mock draft that I did this week, I really thought, based on some of the noise at the combine, that Monroe Freeling is climbing up draft boards. He had a really good workout, and when you really look at it, he's the first like true left tackle in this class that teams don't have some like doubts about size wise, or that might have to like move to a different spot maybe, because I think Fano kind of came in a little smaller than people anticipated, and he might now have to move to guard. I know Francis Maui-Noah is maybe the top tackle, but he's a right tackle. Do the Browns want to do that experiment again like they did with Jet Wills? So I actually mocked Monroe Freeling to the Browns at 6. That might end up still being a little too high for some teams when push comes to shove. But listen, I think trading back is very much in play for the Browns. Maybe into the early teens with a team that wants to get up if one of those defensive players slips, like a Caleb Downs or an Arvell Reese, or maybe if somebody really wants a Carnell Tate. I could see the Browns maybe sort of shifting back a little bit, or sliding back a little bit, and then maybe getting a guy like Monroe Freeling. But that's kind of where my head's at least early in this draft. And I'm also kind of operating from the standpoint of, I got a feeling the Browns could make a trade for a wide receiver. There was some noise around that at the Combine this past week. I know Marvin Harrison Jr.'s name has come up. I know Chris Olave's name came up, although I don't know that he's quite as likely, because I think the Saints want to see what they have in Tyler Shuck and give him a lot of weapons. But I'm open to adding a wide receiver that way, because we've seen that work with Andrew Berry. And if they do that, I think that probably pushes receiver as a need that they still have, but probably not something that you're taking with your first pick in the first round necessarily. So right now I'm looking very heavily offensive line, more specifically tackle, and I really like Monroe Freeling as a guy that maybe comes into play as the month here ahead leading up to the draft kind of plays out.
Spencer German, is always great stuff. Appreciate the time, the insight. Thanks very much, Spencer.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Spencer German, make sure you check him out. 92.3 The Fan, also the Locked On Browns podcast. We're going to take a quick time out. We turn our attention to Mid-American Conference basketball. Brady Salley, women's basketball coach at Ball State, straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Get ready for action like never before. The 2026 Mid-American Conference Basketball Tournament, presented by Credit Union 1, returns to Rocket Arena March 11th through the 14th. Every shot, every steal, every buzzer beater, it all comes down to this. The best of the MAC men's and women's teams battle for glory, pride, and a ticket to the big dance. Feel the intensity, hear the roar. MAC Tournament Basketball. Be there. Tickets on sale now at rocketarena.com.
Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to Mid-American Conference basketball and are happy to welcome Brady Salley, a women's basketball coach for Ball State, into the show. Coach Salley, thanks so much for joining us. 14th season at Ball State. You're the defending MAC champions, but you replaced some of the best players in the conference. Allie Becky, Marie Kiefer, Alex Richard. What was the thought when you kind of went out and had to recruit everybody?
Yeah, everybody's right. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get on here and talk about this group. But, you know, in a weird way, when that tournament ended last year and we won it, we didn't really have time to celebrate because we knew what we had to replace. We were graduating 6 seniors and, you know, all of our scoring basically and the kids that really won that thing. So we went right to work with, you know, whether it was international kids, whether it was the portal, and the real focus wasn't, hey, let's get in the portal or, hey, let's do international. It was, we've got to find talent. We knew what we were losing, and whether they were freshmen or whether they were transfer kids, we just wanted to hit the nail on the head with talent. And my associate head coach, Audrey Spencer, did a great job bringing these kids in here, and talent is what we have, that's for sure.
Not exactly the same either. So it's not like you're trying to recreate what you had with those 6 seniors.
Right. There was no chance of doing that. We never thought about, oh, let's go get another Allie Becky or let's go get another Marie Kiefer, because, you know, those are generational type athletes for for us. So it was really just, hey, our system can fit a lot of different skill sets. Let's just go get talent. We did want to get big, and we wanted to be long. Those were two things that I think we accomplished. And I think pretty much when we play everybody in the league, we've been the biggest, we've been the longest, and that has certainly played in our favor.
So, we mentioned all the new players. Two players that came back that didn't play a lot are playing really well. Tessa Towers, 15 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, and Grace Kingery from Northeast Ohio, North Ridgeville. She's really stepped up her game too.
I'll start in reverse order. Grace has really gone from being a shooter as a freshman to being a player as a sophomore. She is, because of the way she's being defended, she's having to really work hard to get her shot off. She's putting it on the deck and getting it to the rim a few times a game. She's playing really well without the ball cutting to the rim. And in our 5-out motion system, she's finding a lot of looks that way. But she's been a bear, shooting over 40% from the three-point line and can shoot it from deep. And I know she's on the top of everybody's scouting reports. And then Tessa Towers, honestly, is a made-for-TV movie. What she's done with herself this year, came to us from Wisconsin a few years ago. We spent last year really just trying to work on her, not worrying about having to play, not worrying about anything, just trying to get her to fall back in love with the game. And she's done that more. Her work ethic, what she's done to her body, and then what it's done to her confidence level was really the story. And then, the skill set's always been there. The talent's been there. But she is an absolute matchup nightmare for most people, not just in our league, but all year long. She is a load to guard down in the post, and she's been really, really good this year.
Another new player, Bree Salenbine, coming from Gonzaga, where she played for 3 years. First on the team, steals and blocks. Second on the team, points. Sounds like she does everything for you.
Well, I'm a baseball guy, and although I was never a great hitter, we swung and hit a home run on this one. There's no doubt about it. My goodness. We knew when she went into the portal, because we had tried to recruit her coming out of high school. She was a 4-star kid, and she talked to us a little bit, but she was never coming to Ball State out of high school. She had offers from all over the place. Ended up at Gonzaga, and of course everybody knows that name, and just really was beat up her whole career at Gonzaga. Never really got her feet under her, so to speak, and had 1 year in there where she put up some decent numbers, but they just kind of used her off the bench, let her shoot the ball a little bit, and got her out. Well, she was looking for a different role, and when we started talking to her about what we wanted to do and what we thought she could do in our system, I think definitely piqued her interest. And so, when you can recruit a player with that talent and what your needs are and what she wants comes together, that's when it's really, really good. So I feel good about what we've been able to give her this year in terms of what she wanted. And then she's been everything and more. We knew she could shoot the ball. We knew she could score it. But she's played with her back to the basket. We've run a lot of stuff for her. She's been a great passer for us. It's part of the reason our assist numbers are so gaudy this year. But man, she's come in and played like a first-team all-leaguer, and we needed every bit of it. As you mentioned, with all those players we left, she's been able to come in and really keep the ball rolling.
You've always had success with international players. This season you have players from Spain, France, Italy, Belgium. How much is that part of what you want to do recruiting-wise year in and year out?
Well, I don't know that we ever really have a plan for, hey, here's what we're going to do. We've just kind of looked at the whole globe as a place to recruit, and the way those kids come up playing over there and the way we play, there's some similarities. We move the ball, we play without the ball in our hands. We're hopefully not a real dribble-heavy team, and that's the way they're used to playing. So there's a real fit, and I think we've done so well with the Europeans that now they're starting to have interest in us. We get phone calls before we ever know about them with kids that have interest in doing what a Natalie Fontaine has done, in doing what a Carmen Grande has done, Telma D. Sagasdatter, what she's done. Like, we've had so many success stories with those kids. They've had such great experiences that those European families and agents, they want that for their kids. They want their kids to come over and experience that. So that was a lot of the story that went into getting these kids. Zen and Anise were highly recruited, and they had a chance to play in the P4 and wanted what we had in terms of a culture and an opportunity. Alba was committed to a P4 school before there was a coaching change, and she opened it back up, had some more P4 offers before she chose to come to our place. So we feel good about those opportunities that we're offering. But really, in terms of, hey, we want this amount of internationals or that, we just don't think that way. We just want players.
Before I let you go, Coach, one more game before the tournament begins. You're going to be the second seed. What is the message to your girls?
Well, I guess the good thing is, on paper, we're still playing for a championship. If my boy Bob Bolden can do me a favor and knock off Miami, I'll be Ohio's biggest fan. And then, of course, playing at Toledo, my goodness, that's always a tough place to play. One of the best crowd bases around. And for some reason, they love calling my name out during the whole game while I'm there. So, we've got plenty to play for. And this team that I've coached this year, they've been so good at just staying present. Not thinking too far ahead. I don't know that they know what's coming with going to Cleveland. It's going to be the first time walking in that arena for 9 of them. So we really are just keeping our focus on going and beating Toledo. And like I said, hoping that Bob Bolden can be the good friend that I know he is and pull one off on Saturday. So, and then, however that works out, we'll figure out who we're playing, and we'll get going on Sunday and have a plan in place and ready to roll up north.
Coach Sally, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it very much. We'll see you next week. Best of luck as you head here to Rocket Arena.
It's here. I can't believe it, but we're excited to get up there and try to defend that title, man.
Time to take a look at the road to Cleveland and the women's Mid-American Conference basketball standings. The 8 teams have clinched spots, but the seeding can be shuffled up a little bit. Miami locked up the number 1 seed. Ball State will be the 2 seed. UMass and Central Michigan will be 3 and 4. After that, it can still shift. But Ohio, Toledo, Bowling Green, and Kent State will all be headed to Rocket Arena for the Mid-American Conference Tournament. Our final game of the week on Saturday, the Battle of the Bricks in Athens on ESPNU. The Redhawks already clinched the regular season MAC title, set up a new program record in the process, as they could match the program record for conference wins if they improved to 17-1 on Saturday. For the Bobcats, it's senior night, a chance to take some momentum heading into that Mid-American Conference Tournament. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Remember, next week, Mid-American Conference basketball preview shows on Tuesday. We'll highlight the women's tournament, and on Wednesday, it will be the men's. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports4CLE.